Potential picks at 31. Trades across the NHL on Tuesday. We had everything and everything. We'll talk all about that on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network, and today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. I am your host, Zach Martin, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about the NHL Draft, and the Hurricanes have right now the 31st overall pick. So if they decide to keep it, who should they really look at? We're going to talk about Maddox Dagenais. We're also going to talk about JP Hurlbert, and we're also talking about just a slew of trades that happened on Tuesday across the NHL. Hey, we all thought the trade deadline was on March 6th, but apparently it turned to June 23rd instead, because my goodness, there was trades left, right, and center. I mean, keep your head on a swivel because you don't know when a trade's going to come at this point. But we are actually going to start with the NHL Draft itself. We're going to be looking at Maddox Dagenais. Sorry if I mispronounced that correctly. Not really good with French names, apparently, but he is Canadian, does play for the Québec Remparts. And I know we talk about Tommy Bleyl on Tuesday's show, but we're going to look at a couple other guys who I think could potentially go at 31 if the Hurricanes keep their pick at 31. Now, with Maddox, we are looking at him and the fact that right now he is viewed as the 15th ranked forward for North American skaters, according to the NHL Central Scouting. Now, when you look at other guys who on their draft boards, at least Elite Prospects has them at 17. TSN's Craig Button has him at 32. TSN Chris Peters has him at 23. The Hockey News, Ian Kennedy got them at 27. Flow Hockey and all that stuff's got them at 17 and stuff like that. So there's a lot of guys keeping him around to the 17 to the 23-ish range, with one of the guys having him so far down as in 37. But by NHL Central Scouting for North American skaters, he is considered at number 15. And what makes him very interesting is the fact that you're looking at a guy who's got really good speed, and the fact that he knows how to do the chip and chase, he knows how to the dump and chase methods as well. Hitting goal lines really quick, hitting blue lines really fast as well, kind of keeping defenders off, they're on their toes a little bit. Great skating, powerful crossovers. Basically, it's just this guy has a straight up motor, very physical as well, as really good at just reverse hits and all of that stuff. Now, currently, he is 18 years old from Montreal, Quebec. He is 6'4", 196. This dude's got some size on him. He is a left shot center. I know the Hurricanes have a good amount of left shot centers, but hey, if there's a guy who could potentially fit a culture of strong forechecking, high speed, can shoot the puck at will, and can be someone who can really hit the middle of the zone, especially between going to high danger chances, this is a guy to look at. And on top of that, too, last season for Quebec, Maddox had 30 goals, 62 points in 62 games. He did finish as a even, surprisingly enough, for the season, but 62 points in 62 games, you can't really be upset about that. And of course, the even is by what Elite Prospects is saying. I'm curious if that actually is true or not, because they have some other ones where plus minuses aren't there. But that being said, he finished even, but 62 points in 62 games, not bad at all. In the playoffs, he did have 3 goals, 6 assists in 11 games. So, like I said, this is a guy who, like I said, is a left-hand shot. It's something the Hurricanes have a lot of, but when the fact you get a guy who's 6'4", 196 at 18, he's only going to get bigger. In the fact that he's kind of looked at as a power forward type guy who can cut to the middle, can shoot at will, stuff like that, and uses some really good linear speed, great crossovers, can basically keep defenders on their toes. That's probably a good thing to have when you look at the Hurricanes, because something they always look at too is like, can you go win board battles? Can you go make plays? Can you find a way to be a physical presence? And the fact that you're looking at a guy who could, have that mix of a, forecheck-in aggression like a Jackson Blake in a sense, and then the hard-hitting abilities like a Taylor Hall. That's a great combination to have if you look at some Carolina guys who could fit a mold for the Hurricanes. We all saw what Taylor Hall can do, just absolutely just hitting everything that kind of moved it in a sense in the playoffs, and the fact that just with Jackson Blake's forechecking was absolutely aggressive. So when you're looking at, Maddox, Dagenais, that's a guy that you could really look at to be a possible someone to have. And like I said, I know he's a left shot center, but you never really have too many good center depths. I know you just got Charlie Serrato last year. You're looking at what's going to happen with Ryan Suzuki, with his contract coming off the books. Do you bring him back? There's other guys you're looking at center as well. Yeah, you got Skylar Burnmore and all that, but you look at the center depth. I mean, there's nothing wrong with adding more centers, and the fact that this guy kind of fits a Hurricanes build at 31. Maybe if he, falls down a little bit farther, it'll be interesting to see. But right now, a lot of the people have this guy going around the 27 to 31 range, so he could fall back to 31 if the Hurricanes really wanted him. It just depends if they want to stick there, because we all know last year the Hurricanes traded out of the back end of the draft, got some extra picks later on, and just kept trading back and picking up more picks as they went on. So this is just a case of if the Hurricanes do keep it, who's someone they can look at. Like I said, Tommy Bleyl could be really good defensively, like a Shane Gostisbehere 2.0 type of guy. But like I said, if you're looking at someone like a Maddox, who's a mix of a physical Taylor Hall, got the power forward ability of an Andrei Svechnikov and an aggressive forechecking of a Jackson Blake, that's a good mold to have. Like I said, the guy is only 18 years old. He's 6'4", 186. Give him some extra development, put some muscle in this guy. If he gets to like 6'4", 6'5", and hits like, I don't know, 205, 200, 205, maybe 210, this guy could be a lethal force when it comes to being a speedy power forward guy who's basically just a brick building on skates, essentially. I mean, it's got the speed to do it too. So like I said, if there's one guy that I'm possibly looking at, it's Maddox Dagenais out of, the Quebec Remparts of the QMJHL. Like I said, 62 points in 62 games. That's not a bad thing to have when you got a point per game guy who is a center. Did win a silver for the U17 World Championships. And like I said, he had a good playoff, 6 points in 11 games, not bad at all. Even though, and this was his, second season with the Quebec Remparts, 24-25, his first year with them. He had 12 goals, 26 points in 43 games, did finish with a -22, but then it absolutely just shot up on the scoring sheet. And even in the back half of the year played really well, as, when all things considered for the Quebec Remparts. So like I said, who knows? There's a lot of guys you could look at between, the 26 to like 31, 32 range that you could look at. There's a lot of guys that, the Hurricanes could be potentially looked at like a Xavier Villeneuve, someone that, they've been kind of linked to them. Or, you're looking at, some other interesting players, later on in that draft, but, in the first round, or if they trade out, like who could they get early second round. But if you're sticking at 31, and if, say, Tommy Bley's not there, and you're looking at, okay, who's two other guys that you could potentially look at 31, for me, you're looking at a center that could be, huge, because you need centers. The Hurricanes have a lot of wingers, and, we'll talk about one here in segment 2 that could be a good one as well. But you're going to need, like, you've got some good wingers, but you definitely need some centers too. And I think Maddox Dagenais could be someone that you could slide into a depth in Chicago and be like, okay, you're going to be one of our centers. We'll get you ready to go and see what happens later on. Because like I said, looking at Charlie Serrato, after that, it's like, okay, you're looking at what other centers could you potentially bring in. You got, Mark Jankowski right now as your 4C. As of right now, you do have just Barry Kotkaniemi, but you're talking, what, 2, 3, 4 seasons down the road when this guy's going to be around 20, 21, 22. Could he be someone that's, playing well in Chicago and comes up? Who really knows? But that's one of the guys that I'm looking at for sure. Now, I said we're looking at centers, and I said we're also going to look at a winger. So stick around. We'll talk about JP Hurlbert here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. The World Cup is here, and it's the most electric time in soccer. On Call Sheet, you can trade every single match and the championship game. Now, Switzerland is trading at a 40% to beat Team Canada, meaning a $100 trade pays out to a $239.92 if they win. As the World Cup heats up, those numbers move in real time, and you can buy in or out at any time. On Call Sheet, you're trading against the peers in a live market, meaning it's peer against peer. And as the probability changes, you can buy in or out of your position. For a limited time, download the Call Sheet app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI Call Sheet, trade on anything. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform, from sales and accounting to inventory and marketing. Everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organization knows that success isn't just about talent, it's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like in business. One thing that really stands out is how the organization, when you talk about the Carolina Hurricanes, got everyone pulling in the same route with the direction of just being able to fit the guys that fit the system well, who wants to be here. It wasn't just one great player or coach. It was a coordinated effort across the entire organization to make it successful. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockdown. That's odoo.com/lockdown. Get your daily Carolina Hurricanes fix completely ad-free, but join the Every Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to the show in the link, show notes, and or in the description to claim your free trial today and join us at the Everydayer Club. Now, welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so I know we talked about, Maddox and stuff like that. Now we are going to look at JP Hurlbert, or as he's called, Jeffrey Paul Hurlbert III, but they do call him JP Hurlbert. Now, he did play with the Kamloops Blazers last year in the Western Hockey League, but now going into the 26-27 season, he's actually joined the University of Michigan in the Big Ten of the NCAA. But so for him, he is listed as a forward, but they're looking at him as a more of a right wing type of guy. Does shoot right, 6', 183. Out of Allen, Texas. So he played in Allen, Texas, went to Kamloops in the WHL, is now going to the University of Michigan, the NCAA. He's viewed as a cerebral tactician who was offensively minded as a forward, which he really should be because he's a forward, but he also is a very good sniper. Now, in terms of where he's ranked, you got Elite Prospects having him at 30. You got Craig Bunham got him at 23. Chris Peters of TSN has him at 22. Kennedy's got him at 11 on his Flow Hockey, and Chris Peters has him at 22 as well. Daily Faceoff 21. Now, when you look at Sportsnet, got him 20th, and Angel Central Scouting for North American Skaters has him 12th. Now, he did win Rookie of the Year in the Western Hockey League last year, and also was on the first All-Star team for the West of the WHL. Now, in his rookie season in Kamloops, as an alternate captain, 42 goals, 97 points in 68 games with a plus 13, and in the playoffs, 1 goal, 3 points in 4 games. And he's not afraid to put up points, because you look at his last year with the Dallas Stars Elite 16U AAA team, 76 points in 45 games, goes and plays for the U.S. National Development Team in the USHL, 31 points in 34 games. The thing that really stands out, I know you're talking, U hockey, the Dallas Stars Elite 14U AAA team, and like I said, I know this is way back, like way younger than he is now, 112 goals, 83 assists for 195 points in 75 games. yeah, I think the Dallas Stars Elite 14 U team really loved having JP Hurlbert down there, just absolutely ripping 112 goals in a season. My absolute gracious. But even then, 42 goals and 97 points in 68 games in your first year in the Western League is pretty dang good. And the fact that he's already flipping from Kamloops to go to the University of Michigan at 18 is crazy. Like I said, 6 foot, 183 is a right shot. They live him listed as a forward, but he really is. He's more of a right winger in a sense. But this is the guy that it's a funny thing when you look at this, at how he's viewed, because he's looked at as a guy who is very aggressive with the puck. He's very smart with what he does with it. They're already talking about the fact he's got an elite shot already. You're almost looking at a possible, like a Bradley Nadeau type of guy where he can just kind of just shoot from any position he really wants. The thing, though, is the one knock that I keep seeing that's mentioned about him is the fact that when he doesn't have the puck, though, he is someone who's a little bit passive, kind of lets the play come to him. He's not very aggressive like he is with the puck. But if you get him within an organization that does train really well, aka the Chicago, the Hurricanes organization, playing with, Spiros Anastas down there in Chicago, this could be a guy that you can really look at it being like, okay, we can make something work here. He's got an aggressive shot. He's very lethal, offensively minded. The fact that he's got an absolute snipe shot is really crazy too. And the fact that he's a cerebral tactician, meaning his offensive IQ is off the charts. That could be someone that could be really good down the road as a potential right wing, or you put him on the left. It's just he's listed as a forward. You could pretty much put him anywhere you really wanted to and give him development. It's just something that's undeniable when you look at a guy like that, where it's, yeah, maybe you're off puck. You're not as the aggressive guy that we see when you do have the puck in your stick, where you do have the control. You got the speeds, you got the hockey IQ, the situational awareness. If you can blend that into how he's like that off the puck, you could be looking at an all-around guy who could be very, very scary on a team that knows how to develop and make guys work. But like I said too, he's rated very high on a lot of boards. Like I said, you're looking at him being 22nd for some guys, 23rd. Elite prospects have him somehow 30, but a lot of the other ones are like 20, 21, 19 for draft prospects. Like I said, Central Scouting's got him 12th for North American skaters. Like this could be a guy who could go, mid to late 20s, maybe not even make it into the 30s. But let's say he somehow makes it to 31, and the Hurricanes think this is a guy they could really take. Why not? I mean, you saw what some guys from Kamloops do really well, and you got Logan Stankoven. I know didn't draft him, but he came out of Kamloops, and a lot of guys out of the Western League are very, very good at what they can do. So if you're looking at another Western guy to have that Kamloops connection, why not look at a guy like JP Hurlbert? And like I said, the fact that he is an American player, absolutely killed it down with the Dallas Stars youth leagues, essentially with all their elite teams from 13 to 14 to 16, and played well with the U.S. development team, USA 17 for the world, the hockey worlds, and then goes and plays in the Western League. It almost puts him 100 points as a rookie. Like, how can you say no to that? That's just some highly offensive upside that you really want to have. So that's where this is maybe more of the unlikely guy to get at 31, because he might not make it that far. But by the off chance, why not go for a guy like that? If he can be, a Bradley Nadeau type member, maybe you do throw him to the left wing, or maybe you put him as a center if it really works, or keep him on the right side as well. You could have a nice 1-2 punch of those two guys somewhere down the road if it works out. But like I said, those are two potential guys that I'm looking at. JP Hurlbert could be a good guy to have with his offensive IQ, his shot abilities. He's got a lot of things you really work with. But Maddox, Dagenais has another good option as well. He's a big power forward guy at center. So those are two possible options you can have for the Hurricanes at 31 if they do stick there. I mean, we'll see. We know the Hurricanes aren't afraid to trade out of the first round, especially in the fact where they can get more draft capital, because as of right now, the Hurricanes do have 4 picks. There's a good possibility they might do it again, and hopefully it's not. We're waiting 5 hours for the pick to happen. So it'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out. Now, that being said, while the draft is not that far away, Tuesday kind of became an NHL trade deadline out of nowhere. Trades left, right, and center. So we'll talk about those trades and what it means for the Hurricanes here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting with the licensed healthcare providers online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of your home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. Between work, family, and everything else that's going on, finding time for appointments can be tough. Having access to licensed providers online means you can prioritize your health without having to rearrange your entire day. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonAHL. That's hims.com/lockedonAHL for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonAHL. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is a generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. Welcome back to a segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so we talked about two possible guys that the Hurricanes could look at in terms of a pick to have at 31. But my goodness, there were so many trades going down on Tuesday. It was crazy. All of a sudden, Weeder's getting trades left, right, and center. Like, we thought the trade deadline was March 26th. Apparently, it's June 23rd instead. But one of the first ones that kind of came out was the Calgary Flames and the New Jersey Devils. Simon Nemec and Maxim Tresplakov leave New Jersey, go to Calgary for a defensive prospect and 18 Morin, a 2026 second rounder, a conditional 2027 first, and a conditional 2028 first rounder. Okay, well, that's 2 less guys that the Hurricanes have to worry about in the Metropolitan Division, and the Devils got basically 3 picks, and who knows, the Devils may go and use those for something, but that was a crazy trade, and that wasn't done yet. How about for the fact that the Ottawa Senators, all they had to do was give the 9th overall pick in the entire draft coming up on Friday. They got William Eklund, Kasper Halutinen, and Brandon Svoboda. Okay, well, I guess William Eklund's now part of the Eastern Conference. Now the Eastern Arms race just got very interesting with the fact that you got a guy like that who played really well for the Sharks last year with the most insane falling down, shooting the puck out of the air type of shot, but now he's part of it. So that was a crazy move. And then, now Jordan Kyrou is part of the Metropolitan Division because the Washington Capitals picked him up from the St. Louis Blues. Only had to give up Milton Gastrin, Connor McMichael, and the 2026 16th overall pick. Well, that definitely makes things a little bit interesting now, the fact that you got to deal with Jordan Kyrou for a few, more times this season. But hey, Connor McMichael, who somehow had, was given the Hurricanes fits last year, well, now he's off to the Western Conference. But now you got to deal with Jordan Kyrou. And now one of the most recent ones that popped up was the fact that you got Bowen Byram and Jordan Greenway leaving the Buffalo Sabres or to go to the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Blackhawks give up Crevier, the 4th and the 45th overall picks for 2 guys in a what that trade still makes no sense to me for the fact that the Blackhawks gave up 2 picks in this upcoming draft. One was a 4th overall for a guy who's on the last year of his deal in Bowen Byram and Jordan Greenway. Like, make sense. Like, that's a fleece of fleeces. I don't know what Kyle Davidson's doing, but hey, I guess that's 2 less guys out of the Eastern Conference, and now it's just, a bunch of draft picks. Apparently they could change into something else. But what does this mean for the Hurricanes? Honestly, really not a lot, because okay, yeah, you got Jordan Kyrou now with the Capitals. You got William Eklund now with the Ottawa Senators. There are some guys going back out west, stuff like that. Bowen Byram and Greenway moving out to the Western Conference. I mean, Chuck, with that whole thing with Florida for draft picks, I mean, he's just going to the Atlantic Division, so nothing really changes there. You still see him the same amount of times. It's just now with his brother, with all those guys of Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand and Alexander Barkov and all those guys. But in terms of the Hurricanes after Tuesday, nothing. I mean, at this point, you're still excited for the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes won a cup, and you just saw them have their parade on Saturday, which now to estimate 180,000 people there. Honestly, at this point, I'm not even still really that worried because the fact that the Hurricanes they still have like $11.1 million in cap space. The only guy they really need to sign that's dire straits move is Alexander Nikishin. Other than that, you have Mike Riley as a UFA and Freddie Anderson as a UFA. You just extended, Nick Delorier for 2 years at like $875,000 a year if you really break it down. But barring any trades, I can see the Hurricanes being like, hey, we want this team. Everyone's still locked up to decent deals. Let's just run this sucker back. I wouldn't be upset if they did do that. But if they go and want to go trade for someone, they got draft capital for 27 and 20 to go get it done. Heck, they might trade their first rounder, get some more draft capital now, just because why not? Seems like everyone's throwing their picks around like they don't really matter right now, like it's candy on Halloween, but doesn't really change a whole lot for the Hurricanes. They're still going to be viewed as one of the top teams in the East, regardless of the fact that Brady Tkachuk's a Florida Panther now, and regardless of the fact that Jordan Kyrie's a Washington Capital, and William Eklund's an Ottawa Senator, and Crevier's a Buffalo Sabre. Like, okay. Hurricanes still have their entire roster who just won a Stanley Cup. Like, all right. Like I said, barring anything that changes, it's not something that's really concerning. And it's honestly the first time in probably a while where I'm looking at a free agency or a draft or a trade period going into the summer of like, whatever happens, happens. Like, okay. Not that overly worried. Like I said, you're bringing it's not like this team was up to the cap ceiling and they're like $4 or $5 or $10 million over, and they got to go trade guys to blow up the roster. They don't have to blow up the roster. Like I said, they got $11.1 million left in cap, and that's including guys like the one not so great contract that's on the books for 4.82 and Kotkaniemi, but they can still keep them and be like, okay, we're just going to run it back with everyone else. We still got $11.1 million in cap space, and that's before you go and sign Nikishin. And that depends on if you want to bring back Mike Riley back as your seventh defenseman, and if you want to bring Freddie Anderson back. Like, you have a lot of cap space to make this work. It's really not that tough if you're the Carolina Hurricanes go to, make something work outside of a possible trade. But overall, what does it mean? A whole lot of nothing. Like, okay, have fun with your arms race to try to catch up to where the Hurricanes are at. The Hurricanes don't really have to worry about it right now. Like, so they're pretty much going to bring almost their entire squad back. Like, all right, let's just run it back. Strike with the band one more time. Why not? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do make moves, but this is where it's like, oh no, the Hurricanes have to go make a trade or they have to go do something because now everyone's, picking up all these guys. We all know Eric Tulsky knows what he's doing. Tom Dundon believes in he believes in the front office. He believes in Rod Brind'Amour. He's even said that Rod's got a contract for life as long as he wants to be here. That's all that really matters. They don't really see about getting rid of Rod, and you can't get rid of him now because of the fact they just want a Stanley Cup. But Eric Tulsky knows what he's doing. Just the slow build of, bringing all these guys in. You get Taylor Hall, then you get Logan Stankoven. You got, Shane Gostisbehere this year before. You brought in Sean Walker at the same time as well. And then you go and bring in, the Nikolai Ehlers and Kendra Miller and all that stuff. And you claim Brandon Bussey off of waivers and you go and trade for Nick Delorier for a conditional 7th. Like, you're getting moves done. You've built a roster that makes sense. And right now, we all know that Tulsky doesn't make moves just to make moves. So in terms of all the trades that happened on Tuesday and what it means for the Hurricanes, go and celebrate the Stanley Cup. Business as usual. Nothing's going to change. I don't think that's really going to happen very much unless something crazy happens where they do make a trade or who knows. But as of right now, keep enjoying the Cup. Not that big of a deal. Let these other GMs start throwing around trades like they have to go make trades while the Hurricanes are going and celebrating the Stanley Cup and having a fun summer for the next couple of months. And we'll see how it goes from there. But we're not that far off from the draft. We will possibly do some more draft coverage, and if anything else crazy happens over the next couple of days with some more trades, looking at more of a broad NHL topic that could affect the Carolina Hurricanes. But we'll see how it plays out over the next couple of days. But until then, This will be the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. If you've never missed an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On Hurricanes ad-free, plus a members-only Discord access and more. Head to the link in the show notes or the description to join the club today. It's $5 a month, $50 for an entire year, and make sure to take advantage of our 7-day free trial. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel and audio. Make sure to make your second listen to NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is L_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin. Where if you click the link to my bio, you can find all my written content at thehockeywriters.com. I'm putting out a lot of stuff recently. Parades, quotes, Nick Delorier extensions. Talk about Red Burnmore being snubbed out of the Hockey Hall of Fame again. And when you guys listen to this episode, I will also have an article version of the 3 guys that I've talked about so far over the last couple episodes to potentially be picked at 31 for the Carolina Hurricanes. So make sure to check that out at thehockeywriters.com. We got a lot more stuff coming down the pipe with the draft and free agency next week. If you want to catch us on audio, well, you can check us out on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. And on YouTube, well, we're Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notifications so miss the show. Hit the thumbs up so me know if you like the show as well. Share with other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But until next time, as always, let's go Canes.